And so I think a lot of us church leaders get convinced that when we say something, people hear it, and that's not always the case.
This is Equip and Engage, a podcast by Subsplash, exploring how ministry, technology, and innovation come together to equip churches around the world to engage their communities.
Hey, welcome to Equip and Engage. My name is Chris, and at Subsplash, I have the privilege of partnering with our clients to facilitate conversations just like this podcast. We're actually on the road today here in Southern California, and I'm so excited for the conversation that's ahead of us here in this episode. I'm here with Bert Alcorn, lead pastor at Anthem, Ventura. Bert, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Stoked to be here. Thanks for having me on.
This is going to be awesome. It's just been so good to get to know you this last day or so, and the conversation we're already having is so encouraging to me, exciting for me, and I know that those who are tuning in are just going to have an awesome time hearing what you have to say. So today we're talking about communication. We're talking about why it's so important to have the right tools to communicate well, and really how it helps to build culture and authentic community.
Yeah.
I know, Bert, you're really passionate about this.
Too passionate sometimes.
I am just right there with you, just on the edge of my seat about this topic and about what you have to say about it. So we're going to dive right in, but just quickly before we do, love to hear a little bit about yourself and just the community that you're part of here in Ventura, California.
Yeah, my wife and I, we have 3 kiddos. We planted the church that we're currently leading a little over 4 years ago. We're in a small little beach town just south of Santa Barbara, north of Los Angeles. And we love our little beach town. It's been a wild ride just getting to know our city. I'm not originally from here, so it's a little bit of a drop-in situation. And so we felt like we've been students of our city and students of our culture and have felt deeply, deeply in love with the people here. But some really unique things about our church and about our city. Our city is a really transient town, much like I think a lot of cities across the
like
states
Seattle,
right now.
For sure, where we're from. Yeah,
absolutely. So people come in, we maybe have 1, 2, 3 years with them, and they have kids and they leave this part of town, or they get a different job and they take off. And so for us, just really kind of brought some values to the surface of doing life together as a family, kind of deep, authentic community, and even finding ways to turbocharge community and turbocharge relationships really quickly, because we know we only have a small amount of time with people. And so that's really had an impact on how we do life together as a church, and even some of the things that are important to us.
Cool thing to see here. Yeah. How many people do you think are here in Ventura just for the beach town? Is that a thing?
The funny thing is people in Ventura would prefer you just keep driving to Santa Barbara. So we try to hide the fact that we have a beach in a really cool city. But it is a draw for a lot of people. I think between the mountains right behind us in Ojai and the Pacific Ocean, obviously, it is a draw for a lot of people. And so there's a huge outdoor culture. Patagonia is based here, from here. And so there's just a huge culture of like, you go on your adventure and this is the perfect home base for that. And so it is a draw for a lot of people. And then some people kind of get what they want and then take off, but a lot of other people end up finding that this is home, and it's actually like a beautiful community to be a part of.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's totally a draw for us. We're thinking, where can we go shoot a podcast? Where's the beach? So let's head to Ventura, California, talk to Bert, and so glad we did. It's been awesome.
So good to have you.
Well, communication and building community is extremely important to you. We've picked that up just in the short time talking to you already, and love your passion for it. And Anthem is really built on an incredible culture that values this within your specific context. It's really cool. So we just love to hear, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've experienced in this space, or you've seen other ministries experience when it comes to communication?
Personally, in my life and my leadership in the churches I've been a part of, and then even churches or ministries we've seen kind of 2 primary challenges around communication. And the first is either like a lack of communication, where there's just the word is not getting out at all, and people are kind of in the dark about what's happening, or who to talk to about what, or anything like that. Then the other challenge we found is just bad communication. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of us church leaders get convinced that when we say something, people hear it, and that's not always the case.
Yes.
And so saying something and then hearing that same thing is not a one-to-one equation.
Yeah, in any relationship, really.
In any relationship.
It's a human problem, for sure.
Exactly. And so I think that translates too in the church world quite a bit. And so I think we've learned and have overcome and are learning to overcome just some of those same traits that we bring to the table around. Just because we said it doesn't mean people have heard it. We had to look for some other solutions.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's something I've heard you say. We've picked it up from you the last couple of days. It's almost even a mantra of yours, I'd say, which is this phrase: communication equals care.
Yeah.
And that instantly just gets the gears turning in my head. There's some apparent meaning in it. I'm like, oh, that's so true. Yeah. Right away, I know that's so true. And yet there's depth to it also, where I just want to hear more about that from you. So could you tell us just a bit about what that means, and maybe also when in your leadership you learned that lesson? When did you learn that it was so crucial to communicate well, to care for people?
For us, in our experience, communication is not just a strategy, something to delegate to the communications guy or the creative guy or whatever. For us, it's like a pastoral shepherding concern. Yeah. And so we say communication equals care. For us, it's a high value for our leaders and how we're leading and caring for people, that communication is a part of the equation as well. And so because the gospel is real, people can be known and loved and heard and valued. Yeah. But those things don't come across if people aren't communicated with or feel like they have clear lines of communication. And so for us, it actually has less to do with strategy and tools, although those are really important, and we could talk about those.
Yeah, we will, yeah.
But it actually has more to do with the heartbeat and the vision for church as a family. The number one picture we have of the church in Scripture is of a family. Mm-hmm. And in healthy families, they communicate well. In dysfunctional, unhealthy families, they don't communicate well. Right. And so for us, as we're trying to form a people and to form a community, communication is a really high value. And also just in people's personal lives, we know when they are feeling communicated with, and when they have clear lines of communication to others, they're feeling heard and valued.
Yep. And I'd love to sort of flip that around a little bit. It's so true that it is caring to communicate with somebody.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Paul says in 1 Corinthians that every single person in the church is indispensable, and you don't feel that way when you're out of the loop. So when you're out of the loop, it feels like there's an exclusive club you're not a part of, that you're not good enough, that you don't have enough knowledge, that you haven't been around long enough, serve enough to reach that level where you can finally be in the loop with, what the leaders are saying or where the church is going, and to break down some of those walls and to try to communicate well and to have strategy and heart for communication actually just communicates value to people. It says you're known, you're loved for who you are. You don't need to do anything extra. You don't need to achieve any, which is the gospel, right?
Which is the gospel.
Yeah, yes. It's the gospel of grace towards us. So there's nothing we have to do to earn God's love. And so we just try to mimic that in how we lead our people, and saying even is something that could seem trite or could seem really pragmatic as communication, it actually communicates a lot about a person's identity as well.
Right. Yeah. So good. Well, you've already started to reveal a bit your pastoral heart for this, which is really cool. And we just love your huge heart for communication. We know that it's not just about growth strategy or increase for you and for your church, nor is it purely practical. We just need to get this message out. We just need to tell them about this event. And it's about shepherding, really is what it's about. And I've heard your wife said this in a conversation yesterday. Yeah. It's much less important how this is helping you grow if we're not growing together and if we're not growing in Christ.
Totally.
So why do you think it is that leaders should be invested in communication from a pastoral perspective specifically?
Yeah, it's so good. She's brilliant. I'm glad she shared that. For us, we just see such a one-to-one of health in communication. And so no one wants an unhealthy church. No church leader wants a church that's full of people who are disunified and bitter and grumbling. People want a church that is healthy, as we grow as well. And so we like to say, as we go wider, we want to still go deeper. And so for us, especially in a transient city, that just means turbocharging relationships and hitting the gas pedal really hard. And so for us, creating avenues of communication helps a lot with that. And so even just the potential awkwardness of you meet someone new at church on a Sunday and you want to hang out with them, grab a coffee, grab a lunch or whatever, and just not having their phone number or trying to get their email, and just those are all barriers to relationships.
It's a big barrier to leap over, isn't it, the first time?
It is totally. Really weird. Yep. And so we want to just try to leapfrog some of that and know that people have a certain amount of time here. They maybe don't have family in the city. They don't have deep friendships. And so we as the church want to be the source of a lot of those deep community and deep friendships.
Yeah. I love that. Well, we'd love to dive into tactics just a little bit, So hearing from you, what are a few things that you've learned over your time in ministry? How many years?
Yikes. About 14 years in ministry.
That's awesome. Love that. Well, what are a few things that you've learned over the years that do enhance good communication? And are there any tactics that you personally employ, when it comes to changing your communication within the context that you're engaging with specifically?
Yeah, we found a lot of things that don't work.
Nice.
So we can share some of that. Honestly, over the years, as technology changes, as culture changes, we got to change along with it. And so I think one of the things that we felt years ago was, social media is a silver bullet of communication. It's like perfect, shove everyone in a Facebook group. This will be great. And it's not the case. It's not great.
Yeah.
Make sure you get everyone's email. We'll send out an email blast, and our email open rates are abysmal. They're like 15% or something like that. And so we just found a lot of things that don't work, and especially as people, at least in our town and our culture, are reacting to a lot of the communication shifts. They're not all on the same social media platform. They're not all reading email blasts that come in because they're getting 100 a day from Target and Amazon and all the other places that are bombarding. You know, and so for us, what we really learned through a lot of failure and trial and error is we just need to be like really unabashedly bold about how we communicate and not be concerned about trying to reach every avenue. And so, to try to have everyone in a Facebook group, but for the people who aren't, we'll do an Instagram. And for people who aren't, we'll catch it on Twitter. And for people who aren't, we'll do email. And, just to do we have to do all of those things really well? And we just kind of made the decision as a church, we're not going to do any of those for meaningful communication. Where, maybe front door kind of things, let the community know who we are. But for our church, we're going to say there's one place you go to get information, and that's our app. It has all the media, sermons, it has events, sign-up forms, everything that's coming up, everything you need to know to stay in the loop. Every way to sign up for anything is in our app. And then for us, it's also meant for communication. There's one way we communicate as a church. I'm a bit of an Enneagram type 1, so I don't mind putting my foot down and just saying this is the way it is,
With you on that.
And so my wife is a lot kinder than I am, so she can soften that blunt. But for us, we've just said look, this is how we're doing it. And for us, it was a bit hard at first because people are used to their thing. They're used to logging on to Facebook and getting information that way. They're used to opening their email and being communicated that way. But for us, it's really been kind of building a two-way street of trust to say, we're asking you to go to this one place, and we're going to hold up our end by actually making that place meaningful and and have value to it. And so for us, we've just kind of instituted that and say, this is where you go to get information. This is where you go to communicate with people. And in the long run, it's been a huge win.
Cool. It takes a lot of, I think, wisdom and courage also, to step into that and just say, no, we're going to focus on this. This is where we're going to pour everything that has meaning.
And not being afraid to fail. We've done this in a few other ways and it hasn't worked really well. And so we just found a bunch of different ways that haven't worked. And so we're very comfortable with experiment language. But we do feel like we found some principles and some actual tools to come alongside that to actually help us in that journey.
Well, it's totally no coincidence, that we're here with you this week having this conversation. You and your team at Anthem Ventura have actually been beta testers, early adopters for this new feature, Subsplash messaging, which we've just announced, rolled out. Communication is one of the problems that we're trying to solve at Subsplash. It's one of the problems you're trying to solve in your community. And it's one of the problems that many people around the world in ministry are trying to solve. And Subsplash messaging is stepping into that space to show how this can actually be done in a custom branded mobile app in a really powerful way. So first, we just want to thank you for being part of that beta test. Yeah, it has been really fun. And for us too, you're just helping us bring this feature to life in a way that it wouldn't have been brought to life without you. And so we're really grateful for that, and just your help finding the best ways, helping us find the best ways to innovate, to serve churches around the world, to create authentic community. It's been huge. So thanks for that. And also we'd just love to hear, what makes you most excited about Subsplash messaging when it comes to building even more authentic community?
I think the thing I'm really, really excited about is just the ability to continue streamlining and simplifying how we communicate. And for the app to not just be one-sided anymore, for it to actually be more of a two-way street where people can communicate with other people in the church, with their teams, with their groups. And so for us, the possibility and even potential of downloading one less thing or signing up for one less account or managing more notifications from something else. Someone in our church said, we don't want people to put our church on mute. We want them to actually, value the things that are happening, and then just having too many avenues of communication that all feel scattered or feel cluttered just make people kind of want to shut down and not engage with any of it. And so for us, just it all being under one roof and to drive people where we've already put some care and attention and curated some content is a huge plus. But then for them to know that really is the one-stop shop for everything is probably one of the most exciting things for us. Yeah,
it's so good. I mean, there are absolutely people, churches out there who are needing to download 4, 5 apps, plus just your normal messaging app, in your email app.
We've been there.
Just to stay in touch with
Yep.
people. And we just would love to see a simpler way. And I'm glad you guys have the same vision for that. I think the fruit can be just plentiful and really, really awesome to see. So that's going to be cool. Well, we've loved this conversation. I've loved this conversation. I'd love to just offer anyone tuning in a chance to connect with you and your ministry.
Please,
Where would someone go to learn more about Anthem Ventura, or to connect with you, even if that's an option?
Yeah, like you said, you can download our app, which is fun.
Please do.
You can also check us out, anthemventura.org.
Cool.
Get to know us as a church, some of our heartbeat, some of what we're doing in the city, and then all of our contact information is on there. It is something we're deeply passionate about, and feel like we've made some mistakes, so you don't have to a little bit. And so please ask us good questions. We'd love to help out as much as we can be useful.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Bert. Well, thanks also for just tuning in to Equip and Engage for this episode. We would love to have you back. We just want to continue these conversations and sharing more insights from Bert and other ministry leaders. And there's just so much good stuff to talk about. So we love these conversations and love having you part of them. So please do share this episode if it reminds you of somebody. You've been thinking about someone the whole time. Give us a rating if you liked it. Subscribe so you can just stay up to date. Really, thanks again for joining us. We'll have you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Equip and Engage, where we're sharing insights learned from thousands of conversations with leaders and pastors around the world. To follow along with these conversations, subscribe today or visit our website.